if you're struggling with constantly wanting more, but then you can't find the peace and happiness no matter how much you achieve,
or if you're constantly struggling with that voice talking at you in your head with that incessant chatter,
negativity, commenting on things, and just exhausting, like making you feel bad about yourself or feeling bad about the world, this video is for you. My name is Anne, I'm a wellness coach and a makeup artist.
And I'm Jonathan, and I am creator of the Better Everyday Empowerment app. So today we went to our meditation center. On Sundays they give like a little talk, and during the talk we have multiple meditations. So it's nice to get little Buddhist lessons here and there that, you know, we can apply to our everyday lives. As you guys know, I've talked about before, I've been practicing Buddhism for like, I don't know, 7 years at this point. But every time I hear the same lesson, it's a little bit different for me. And I think that you experience this too. It's like, it'll be the same subject, but each time the teacher's teaching it, you take out a new piece of it, or they tell a different story and it relates to you in a different way. And it often is relating to something specifically that is happening in your life. So it's usually really powerful, and it's super like, it's like a synchronicity thing. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this video and these lessons are not just for if you're practicing Buddhism, because I'm particularly not necessarily considering myself as a Buddhist person. I don't consider myself religious, in fact, but I do love being open to teaching spirituality in general, and I'm open to different legs of spirituality, and I very connect with Buddhism in terms of philosophy, because it's very like kindness, compassion oriented. Nobody's trying to convert you, nobody's trying to shame you, which oftentimes happens with Christianity. Not to say there's anything bad with it, but so we're just letting you know that this video is not a religious video. It's just how to be more stress-free and happy in life. So these are the few things that we learned today, and ultimately that's why we go to these Dharma talks every week. I just always feel so much more peaceful, and like Jonathan said, usually the lesson will somehow be almost like tailored to us, and even though they sound very repetitive sometimes, but it's always so good to be refreshed and to be reminded of, you know, peace and what's true happiness is. And even if sometimes I'm like, is this true, is it not true, I just keep feeling like, I feel freer and I feel more at peace after these talks. So that's why we ultimately wanted to share this with you.
So today we went to the meditation center. We did a breathing meditation. It's really nice when they start with that, because then it gets you in the mindset to receive the teaching. And today's teaching was kind of centered around controlling your mind, which is, you know, controlling your thoughts. Don't let your mind go and run down this tangent of thoughts. You want to train yourself to stay focused on whatever you're doing. Not like, I use the example as like, I'll sit down to meditate and I'll just have incessant thoughts running through my head, and it's like constant chatter from the voice in my head, like almost it's just like narrating every little thing that I'm doing even throughout the day. So we were learning that we can actually train ourselves to quiet that thought, quiet those thoughts, and be more present in the moment. So that's like kind of like the overarching scope of this talk. I thought that one of the most powerful things that I had heard her say today was, she was saying that
Our teacher.
Our teacher, yeah. When I'm saying her or she, I'm going to be referencing our teacher. So during the lesson, she was referencing, you know, we're usually waiting for like the next thing, or we say to ourselves, oh, if I was in a different relationship, or if I lived in a different place, or, you know, like she just lists off a few, but like it's got me thinking like, oh, if I had a different job, oh, if I made more money, oh, if I had a different car, like all of these different things. We keep thinking, oh, it would be better if I had X, Y, Z, when in reality, yeah, that might make you happy for a little bit, but it's not going to truly make you happy. You will get to that same point again where you're feeling that lack. You're going to get to that point where you're feeling like it's not enough, and then you're going to be back in that same spot of, oh, if I had this, it would be better. So it's all about finding that peace within yourself, finding that happiness within yourself. And that is part of controlling those thoughts of grasping onto wanting more, those thoughts of grasping onto that next job, grasping onto that other potential partner, potential place you're going to live.
Cravings and graspings
So
are a source of suffering.
Yeah, those are some of the main causes of suffering, is grasping and cravings. And then I think another one is ignorance or anger. Delusion, ignorance, anger, craving, grasping. These are all types of sources of suffering.
And delusion, I know we're using terms that are very particular, but in Buddhism, delusion, it's not like, oh, you think you're a princess even though you're not, but ultimately everything in our world is our perception, if you think about it, right? Everything that's happening is in our minds, and like Jonathan said, if we can't control our minds, then we can't control our experiences, because all our experiences happen in our mind. And I know maybe this sounds a little esoteric, because you're thinking like, no, that's not true, it's reality. But actually, you need to question your reality sometimes. And I know now I'm getting super esoteric, but that's like kind of like the basis of spirituality, realizing that everything that's happening around you is ultimately just your perception, just in your mind. And sometimes if you think about it, it is the delusion. That's why sometimes people, when they die, like, you know, people have near-death experiences, or when people die, they think like, oh, it all was so simple. So all your problems, all the drama that you're thinking, that if you think about it, in 5 years, 10 years, it's not going to matter. So all of this is actually just delusion. You know, it's like a movie, right?
That makes sense. And the way I was explaining this actually I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person was saying that there is no positive or negative things that are happening. Nothing is inherently positive, nothing is inherently negative. All of these things, we are assigning this positivity or this negativity to, you know, if someone does an action to us or whatever it is. Everything is based on our own perception, and what I think is negative Anne might not think is negative, or what she thinks is positive I might think is negative. So it's truly just comes from your own perspective on those things, and it's good to question that, because we end up getting too, I'm guilty of this, we end up getting too rigid in our standpoints and our viewpoints of things, just because we have, you know, blockages inside of us, because we have this preference because of something that happened in our past. So it's good to question that reality. It's, why do I feel this way? Is this truly negative? Is this truly positive? And then you get to the point where instead of thinking positive or negative, this just is.
So that reminds me of a fable with a farmer who had a horse, and the horse ran away one day. People, his friends and the villagers, came to him and said, oh, how unfortunate, you lost a horse. So another day the horse came back with a bunch of other horses. So then the villagers, the fellow people in the village, said to him, oh, how fortunate are you, now you have so many horses. So then the farmer keeps saying, we'll see. And then one day his son was riding one of those horses and got kicked off the horse and got injured. So then the villagers, his friends, were saying to him, oh, how unfortunate, I'm sorry, like your son got injured. And then the farmer kept saying, we'll see. And then one day there was war, and they were recruiting all the young people in the village to go to war. And guess what? The farmer's son was spared because he was injured. So then the fellow villagers and his friends came to him and said, oh wow, now you're so fortunate, your son didn't have to go to war. So, and the farmer of course said, we'll see. So the bottom line is, you just never know if the situation is bad or negative. The situation is just is. It's ultimately our perception of it, the meaning that we give to it. So like, I ask you, how many times have you had something happen to you where first it seemed like such an unfortunate thing, and then when you look at it, something beautiful happened after, right? So for example, I've had so many relationships that ended, and when they ended, I was so gutted. I felt so heartbroken, even if a lot of them were my choice to end things when things didn't work out, or the person didn't act in a way that I could see myself moving forward with them. I was heartbroken, right? And it felt like such pain and horrible thing that I would never get through. But then guess what? Now we're together and I was able to meet Jonathan and have the loving relationship that we share today. So that's just like one of the examples, and I'm sure there's so many in your own life if you truly choose to see the silver lining. Of course, you have to choose too, because sometimes people get stuck in the victim mentality, right? Which is a completely different thing, and I digress, but
yeah, and
you get the point.
Yeah, I like that story because it kind of just is emulating the flux of life. Like, you know, you go through your seasons, where you see positive, you see negative. But I think the whole thing, like taking it a whole layer further, is just not even seeing it as positive or negative, just seeing them as things. Instead of seeing, oh, is this going to be fortunate? Is this going to be unfortunate? Whatever. It's just taking like this happened and just moving forward.
It actually brings me to another point that was very much highlighted today, and also I heard this in other classes, but every time I hear it, it's like so important for me. It's a reminder: accept things as they are. And when you have acceptance of reality as it is, when you accept things as they are, you feel peace. Whenever I hear this advice, I feel peace inside. Even if my mind goes, well, how can I accept if, then how will I change situation that I'm not happy about, yada yada yada. It's ultimately your monkey mind, right? Your ego who says like you need to force things, you need to change things, and you can change things. But first you have to accept things. So let's say if I hated my hair, which I don't hate my hair, but let's say if sometimes you cut your hair and you regret it, right? How much internal suffering are you causing yourself if you're constantly looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I hate my hair, why did I cut it, why can't I grow it? Well, if you first of all just accept, hey, I did it, it happened, I'm at peace with it, and now I'm going to take care of my hair to grow out my hair, right? You see the energy? You can still do the things to change it, but with so much more peace, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing is too, the way that Buddhism has been conveyed in mainstream is passivity, right? And don't get me wrong, Buddhism is a lot of passivity, and the practices that they teach is passivity. But that doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries, and that doesn't mean that you don't try and be better. Like, you accept things as they are and not try and force change on outside circumstances. But at the end of the day, you are always in control over your own inside situation and the situation that you're putting yourself into. So if you don't like the way a colleague is treating you, you set a boundary that, hey, you do not talk to me this way. That is not controlling an outside situation. That is controlling what's happening inside of your sphere. You always have that ability to remove yourself or set boundaries with people. Whether they follow those boundaries or whatever it is that you've established, that is up to them. But then at that point, you have the right to still remove yourself. So you can be passive and accept things as they are, but don't get abused in that manner. Because I think a lot of the times people will just take it, like accept it. Oh, this I just need to be passive. I just need to accept it.
I don't think it's about being passive, even though it can sound passive. I'm glad that you brought up the situation with a colleague, for example, right? If the colleague mistreated you, so instead of going like, oh my gosh, like drama in your head, how can they do this? Talk to your partner, talk to your mom, talk to your dad, talk to your best friend, talk to your brother, talk to your sister, talk to anybody who would listen, like, oh my gosh, can you believe they did this? And then even when you're alone driving, like going through that scenario again and again, how they mistreated you, right? And like, oh my, drama, right? So, and resisting it. Instead, you can just accept that this happened. Doesn't mean that you're accepting this future behavior and keep accepting that behavior in the future.
And it doesn't mean that you're saying that behavior is okay.
No, you accept that it happened and you check in with yourself. Am I okay with that? Or what kind of treatment am I setting a standard to? Then you can say, you know what? This doesn't feel good to me. This treatment was not okay to me. And then you can go have a conversation with your boss or with that person and then say, hey, the way you spoke to me made me feel this way. Like, you know, how we showed you before, right? So you can have the hard conversation. You can impact change. You can ask for what you desire, but you don't have to resist what happened, you know? Or if you've gone through trauma, doesn't make it okay but you can accept like that is the past, it happened, and now what is the next step of integrity for me to take? It's whether to have a conversation with that person, like with a colleague, or if that colleague chooses to continue treating you the way, then you go back, okay, I accept that this is happening. Now, what is the next step of integrity for me to take? So, am I having this conversation again? Or am I leaving this job? Or am I asking to switch to a different department? But you see, there's no internal war of this constant battle, like, oh, this can't be happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and that circles back to like the whole topic today is controlling your mind, training your mind to not have that incessant chatter. So you have this situation happen to you. Yes, it happened. Accept it as it is. And then if you are uncomfortable in that situation, change it. But when I say change it, not change the external things, change what's happening within me. Is this something that I am willing to tolerate, or is this not? If this is not, take the steps that Anne just said to remove myself from that situation.
Or have a conversation.
Yeah. And if removing yourself is having a conversation and then that, pattern not happening again, then that's great.
Yeah. And that's some of the thing that we I won't say struggle with, but it's a challenge for us to go to these classes, and how can we implement these lessons in our day-to-day life. And that's why we ultimately wanted to create this video and share with you in the future too after these classes, so we can implement these philosophies, these lessons for peace and happiness in our day-to-day lives, right? Going to work, having a relationship with our friends and our parents, and work relationships. So because not everybody can just be a monk, and even though if you're a monk you still have problems, but it's ultimately taking these lessons and applying to your life so you can cultivate kindness, compassion, good karma, good fortune, and just more happiness and peace in your life.
Sorry if I'm looking down, guys. I'm just looking at my notes.
So I'll just continue to this point, because in day-to-day can get so wrapped up in consumerism, in social media, in other people's lives, and constantly being bombarded and programmed to want more, to have more, right? What is advertisement? Advertisement is just selling to you the not enoughness. It's showing you you're not enough until you get this. You're not enough until you buy the new season this. You're wearing last season stuff. You're not enough. You need new seasons.
You're not happy. You're not happy until you have this.
Yeah, you're not enough, or you're not happy, and your life is not complete until you have A, B, C, D, E, whatever they're advertising to you.
Yeah.
So today I heard that ultimately that almost makes you crave things. It almost makes you feel like you constantly need new things, and then your mind constantly is judging what you like, what you dislike, and then your mind is always looking for pleasure and for temporary relief of something that feels so uncomfortable. You're looking for temporary relief for a difficulty that ultimately is life, and that's what was so eye-opening for me again, to be reminded that life ultimately is hard, life ultimately is difficult, and life is suffering, which is one of the noble truth in Dharma, in Buddhism. And that doesn't mean like to be negative, like, oh, life is suffering. But if you accept that, life comes with hardship, life can feel really hard sometimes, then you're not going to always chase things that, oh, I need to be happy all the time. That's the trap, you guys. There's no such thing as happy all the time. So that's what spares us, and that was a big reminder for me to not constantly crave things and feel like, oh, the answer is in the next thing, the answer is in the next book, the answer is in the next date, the next guy, in the next house, in the next achievement, in the next salary level, because it's not. The answer is always within you. It's ultimately about cultivating, in your mind, peace in your heart, love, compassion, kindness in your heart, and it's not about chasing new things and constantly craving. And
and that's where the saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, comes from. And that's the social media thing. You're looking at someone's highlight from your side of the street, but in reality, if you just clean up, tidy up here, you're going to feel much better. wanting to crave what someone else has, you know, saying, oh, if I change my situation and if I had what they had, I would be happy. But in reality, just looking at what you have and cleaning up what's in, like, going on in your situation. So I think they said, recent half-day retreat we had, where they said, like, if you want to change things, start by cleaning up your room. So you have to clean up you have to clean up your mind, you have to train your mind, and then that will ultimately change your outer experience, because you're going to be interpreting everything differently. So by cleaning up your room, I'm saying, like, ultimately organize your room, because that's a reflection of what's going on in your head. But I mean, by cleaning up your room, you want to train your mind to, like ultimately, like the beginning of this, train your mind to quiet down. Don't have that constant chatter, but you want to train yourself to not see things as positive or negative. You want to just see things as things, and experiences are just experiences. Don't be grasping, don't be craving for things. Try and accept what you have and be grateful for the things that you do have. Anne and I do a really great practice for that. We will, on our walks, we'll share our gratitude. You know, what are you grateful for? Why are you grateful for that? And that will help your mind get into that habit of being appreciative and being grateful for the things that you already do have in your life, instead of wanting more. Because think about your situation now and how you have it, it could be so much worse. But we're always thinking is lack. We don't have more. We don't have better. Woe is me, victimhood mentality. But in reality, the world that we live in, if you live in the United States, if you live in California like we do, your life is probably really good. Yes. Compared to the other 7 billion, 8 billion people on the planet. Like, yeah. You're like top, if you live in California at least, even just the United States, you're like literally top 1% of the fucking world.
You guys, my parents had to work very hard all of their lives to be able to bring my brother and I to the United States, and they had to work very hard for us to get the citizenship, to be here legally. So don't take that for granted. And we, like, my dad cried when he got the citizenship, like, because that was like a lifetime achievement of his, and he got it in his late 50s, 60s even, I think. So please don't take it for granted. You are very lucky. We are very lucky to live here. And yes, and we're sharing this with you, by the way. Please don't think that we got this, mastered this, and we're perfect at this. We are also learning. We are always improving, always trying to implement these things. So, and sometimes for me, I find it kind of hard to connect these teachings with also like the self-development world, even though they're both kind of self-development. But you know, there's also this like, go and achieve your life, achieve your dreams, change your life, right? Like, which I believe you do need to make shifts in your outer world as well if you're not happy with them, but that's only if you're already a happy person. Like, you need to work on being happy first, right? And then if you're like comfortable in your skin, you're confident in you have a strong sense of self-worth, you love yourself, and you're happy as a person in general, and then something like happens, or something in the work environment that doesn't fit you, then of course go change it. We're not telling you to just tolerate, obviously, right, and accept things as they are, but it's also ultimately the most of the work is to be happy and to be at peace from within. And that's how I navigate this life, like what makes more sense in terms of peace and freedom, not from here. And sometimes we get lost, right? We can get lost sometimes when I don't go to these classes for a long time, and especially if I get caught in the rah world, where it's like achievement, go get it, like hustle for it, work harder, it can feel not peaceful anymore. And that's how I know I lost my way.
And you're only human. Like,
yeah.
I told something to Anne the other day. She was upset about, I can't remember if you were upset about work or you're upset about something stupid I said. Whatever the case was, is it's just like, hey, you know, like, this is our first time living. This is my first time living life. This is her first time living life. Like, you know, sometimes I don't know what to do. And I guarantee you don't know what to do sometimes. And that's okay.
And it can look like other people know what to do and they've got it figured out. But maybe they are successful in that area that you're so envious about, but they're trying to figure out other areas that maybe you got it down, you know? And everybody's just trying to figure it out. And even if other people look like they got it, trust me, I know that they are still figuring it out. And it's always easier to judge from the outside, but you don't know what battles those people are fighting. So yeah, and so going back to the lessons, right? And what do you want to take away from today, and what are you committing to implement in your life?
I think the biggest thing that I'm taking away from today and I'm going to implement into my life, I'm going to be more intentional with training my mind to be quiet and not let that voice narrate everything that I'm doing throughout the day. I want to try and be more mindful with my experiences and not have that dialogue. I have a really difficult time with my mind running, and it ends up causing me a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, because it's just constant like talk, that inner voice. So my goal is to meditate more frequently and for longer durations to try and learn to control and quiet that chatter.
I struggle with the same thing. So what we can do in practicality, when that voice is constantly talking, and if this is your first time hearing this, you might think that this sounds crazy, like what's the voice you're talking about? You know, when you're going around like, oh, I love this tree, I don't like this tree, oh, I like her hair, oh, what is she wearing? Like, that's the voice we're talking about. If you notice that voice commentating and just like constantly like stirring up drama, right? Just notice it and take a step back in your awareness. Let that common, let that thought go like a cloud instead of getting involved in it and getting involved in the whole story. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
just
that's like,
observe
I mean, that's like the same thing that I do when I'm meditating, but just do it while conscious.
Yes, being conscious.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's just a thought. Like, oh, why did you do this? Why did you say something so stupid? Like, instead of getting into that drama, like, oh, that's just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. I don't have to believe the thought. So, but it takes awareness, of course.
Well, what are you going to take away? What are you going to start implementing into your daily life that we learned today?
I'm glad you mentioned about meditation, because for me it's also, I want to meditate more. I do meditate every single day, but sometimes I get caught up in like visualization, and I do like visualization meditation, and that can get caught you in the future visioning, and which has a place, but I think I want to meditate more into like the present moment, and mindfulness meditation and walking meditation, just be more mindful, like just be more in the present moment, and bringing the presence into everyday moment beyond my meditation practice as well, and learning to accept things as they are without getting so caught up in how things should be. Yes, I ultimately got reminded today is it's not about chasing, constantly changing, I need to do better, what should be different, how I can do this and this to achieve the things I want, because it's ultimately feeding into the cravings and wanting more, right? I commit to remembering, and I pray that I remember, and I will consciously try to remember this every day, to dedicate time to cultivate peace of mind and remember that peace is the ultimate priority, instead of putting so much energy into achievement and how to make things happen. Ultimately move that effort and energy into cultivating the peace within, and good karma, good merit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cultivating the mind of compassion and kindness and stuff like that, instead of the go, do.
Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it when you stop by, check out these videos. It really means a lot to us. If you feel like you're struggling at all with anything, you know, sometimes we do go through a lot, and if it's that voice in your head, if it's feeling like you're kind of stuck in a situation or you don't have enough energy to make those changes that you want, go ahead and click that link down below in the description. It's a link to Calendly for Anne's coaching. There's a free consultation call. Anne has put together a new program for self-worth and action. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, talk with her. She can definitely help. Even if you don't decide to sign up with her, she can definitely point you in the right direction for some resources. So go ahead and check that out. Also, if you just want to have some like background to play while you're feeling a little bit negative, you can download my app. I have empowerments, affirmations, meditations. Just put that on in the background. It'll make you feel really good, I promise. And if you don't like it, I will make you a custom one, and then you can feel the difference in your life, okay? So thank you for stopping by. We hope to see you guys down in the comments below.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.